Today, the FOMC decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged and to continue to reduce our securities holdings. We are maintaining our restrictive stance of monetary policy in order to keep demand in line with supply and reduce inflationary pressures. Past 2 years. The labor market has come into better. Overall, a broad set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market have returned to about where they stood on the eve of the pandemic. Strong, but not overheated. Inflation has eased notably over the past 2 years, but remains somewhat above our longer-run goal of 2% monetary policy in order to keep demand in line with supply and reduce inflationary pressures. In support of these goals, the committee decided at today's meeting to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 5.25% to 5.5% and to continue reducing our securities holdings. As the labor market has cooled and inflation has declined, the risks to achieving our employment and inflation goals continue to move into better balance. Investment, government spending, and net exports, and usually sends a clearer signal of underlying demand. The second quarter's inflation readings have added to our confidence, and more good data would further strengthen that confidence. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting. We know that reducing policy restraint too soon or too much could result in a reversal of the progress we have seen on inflation. At the same time, reducing policy restraint too late or too little could unduly weaken economic activity and employment. Continue reducing our securities holdings. As the labor market has cooled, the broad sense of the committee is that the economy is moving closer to the point at which it will be appropriate to reduce our policy rate. In that, we will be data dependent, but not data point dependent, so it will not be a question of responding specifically to one or two data releases. The question will be whether the totality of the data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks are consistent with rising confidence on inflation and maintaining a solid labor market. If that test is met, a reduction in our policy rate could be on the table as soon as the next meeting in September. So you asked why not today, and I would just say, again, that the broad sense of the committee is that we're getting closer to the point at which it will be appropriate to reduce our policy rate, but that we're not quite at that point yet. Reversal of the progress we have seen on inflation. At the same time, reducing policy. If we were to see, for example, inflation moving down quickly or more or less in line with expectations, growth remains, let's say, reasonably strong, and the labor market remains, consistent with its current condition, then I would think that a rate cut could be on the table at the September meeting. If inflation were to prove, stickier and we were to see higher readings from inflation, disappointing readings, we would weigh that along with the other things. I think it's going to be not just any one thing. It's going to be the inflation data. It's going to be the employment data. It's going to be the balance of risks as we see it. It's going to be the totality of all of that help us make this decision. And with the risks and uncertainties that we face in pursuing both sides of our dual mandate. The Fed has been assigned two goals for monetary policy. What we're trying to do is, that we have we've had this really significant decline in inflation, and unemployment has remained low. And this is a really unusual and historically unusual and such a welcome outcome for the people we serve. What we're thinking about all the time is how do we keep this going? And we've seen significant movement in the labor market.